Hello everybody and welcome to a World of Warship Blitz video. In this video we'll be taking you through some loadout options. So I've had a request to take you through the loadout. So I'm going to take you through my level 5 and above loadout, and we will start with destroyers. I do have a tier 5 destroyer, the Minsk. I've kept that as a lovely little boat, and it is my best example of and I should go away from the tech tree and go to the armory and find the Minsk, which is here. So the Minsk is a good example of a tier 5. You have limited options, and what I've done here is that even though the main armament for the Minsk is torpedoes, I've still gone for the main battery modification. So of all the destroyers, the Japanese torpedo boat line, or the Japanese Minsk as well, which is the first of the gunboats, has incredibly slow firing and slow turning guns. But still, there are times when you're waiting for those torpedoes to reload. The turning on the torpedoes I never really go for, because they turn pretty quickly, and normally you're pretty much focused on lining those up. I did consider torpedo reload, but the problem is that the 5% reduction, you're often lining up, you're not firing as soon as they're available. Sometimes you are, but that 25% survivability was too big an issue for me. For the middle slot, it's a choice between accelerating and turning, and I've taken turning here, mainly because in this Minsk, what I'm doing is I'm taking that additional speed so that I can capture caps. And also, speed does help prevent the ship from taking as many hits. This is a little bit non-standard for my loadouts, but it's what I've gone for. But definitely, at least one of those equipment modules is for turning. For all my destroyers, the supplies that I take are pretty much the same, and if I can open it up, we take the -3% surface detection high-grade coal, the improved crew rations for reload, and the refined diesel for performance. I almost never go for the preventative maintenance pack, and the AA for a destroyer, it's not really going to make much of a difference. So that is my tier 5 destroyer. It's the only one I've got. For a comparison, actually, we'll go for the Podvoisky, which shows the same loadout. The Akatsuki is a little bit different. So you can see with the Podvoisky, it's the same loadout. It's got the propulsion modification, the steering gear modification, and the main battery modification, which is definitely the right choice for the Podvoisky. For the Akatsuki, it's a little bit of a special case, and in this case, I have gone for 2 steering modules because this ship performs so poorly at turning, and it's not that fast anyway, so a bit of a speed increase, doesn't make as much of a difference as being able to get itself out of trouble. And definitely the main battery modification, because the gun's turning performance on the Akatsuki is terrible. So that's my tier 5 choices. Let's just go and find some tier 6. And we'll start. Now, I don't have the American tier 6, but if I did, I'd probably have the same sort of loadout. So let's go for the Fubuki. So the Fubuki is a little bit different in that I have gone for the main battery and the torpedo traverse speed. The Fubuki, the main guns on the Minsk turn so slowly, I've concentrated on the main battery here. I've stretched out and provided a 10% bonus to both the torpedo tubes and the main battery. The steering gear modification in slot 2 goes without saying. And for all my destroyers, tier 6 and above, the third slot is definitely the concealment system modification 1. Now that 10% reduction, along with a 3% reduction from the supplies, actually means that the detection radius of this submarine is very small, 5.72 kilometers. 13%, it would be another 0.6 of a kilometer higher, so it would be at 6.3. And as you can see, the torpedo range is 8.4, the surface detection range is 7.5, so you've got a good third of your torpedo range beyond the visibility, detectability of your destroyer. This is very much a stealth ship. Going in for the Hatsuharu, this is much more standard for me because once you learn to use the guns on your destroyer, it does improve your performance a lot. So when I was starting out on destroyers or starting out in the game, I didn't understand that the guns were an important part of your armament. I just kept trying to land torpedoes no matter which destroyer it was. But here I've got the main battery modification, I've got the steering gear modification 1, main battery modification 1, and concealment system modification 1, along with the standard 3 supplies. And that modification, that concealment, means that I determine the battle. I determine the nature of the battle. When I decide to engage, it means that when I pop smoke and I don't fire, I can get out of detection much easier. It doesn't help you that much when you're in the thick of it, but at the start I've found that it really does. It really helps enable you to get your positioning right. And it also means that when the first attack is lined up, your ability to control that first attack and make it count really helps. The instigator is very much the same. The order of the supplies is different, that's all. But if you notice that the supplies down the bottom and the middle there are the same, they're just in a different order. The equipment is exactly the same. The Gnevny, exactly the same. And the Anshan, exactly the same. So now if you're looking at what I take as their elite specializations, let's go through those. What I look to do is I don't try and improve the torpedo. The torpedoes take so long to reload, and the chance of flooding plus 7% means that if 21% would turn into a 22% or something. So what I try and do is maximize across this. I prefer to go for the performance. I've taken the speed on the Hatsuharu. Let's have a look. And it's the same situation. I've decided to go for the speed and the performance rather than the weaponry. And I find the performance is useful to get places quickly and to get out of trouble. The Ernskater is the same story. Followed by the Gnevny, which has a different set of options. Now, I was tempted to go for this main battery HE damage plus 2% and the fire chance 7%, but I've decided to go for the max transverse speed plus 5 and the transverse acceleration, because what that does is essentially means that it's like I've got two steering modifications, and it means that I don't have any penalty for that concealment modification. It means that it's not quite the same fire starter, but the difference isn't great. Plus 7% of a 4% chance of setting fires is, well, I can work it out, but it's 4 point, well, it's probably 4.1 or something, or 4.2. It's not a lot. The Anshan has the same equipment loadout. However, I have taken the advanced HE shell damage and I'm thinking to pay the gold penalty to bring it back to that transverse acceleration. Being able to dodge and weave is such an effective skill. Right, let's go for tier 7. This is the last tier of destroyer that I have. I don't have a tier 8 destroyer. The Mahan. So just let's get first things first. I have yet to choose. Both of those are excellent options. So I'm working out which I feel more disadvantaged by. Am I getting stuck not manoeuvring as much as I want to, or am I finding that targets are just beyond my range? And when I get a strong sense of which of those is a bigger problem, I will make the selection. But as you can see, the equipment loadout down the bottom is exactly the same as for tier 6. And the supplies loadout is exactly the same as tier 6. So you'll sense a theme here with the Sims, and the main, I think I should be selecting the main battery reload time and the main battery traverse speed. But then again, I I haven't felt disadvantaged by it, and I will wait until I get a strong sense of which one of those provides a better utility. The Shiratsuyu, exactly the same. You can see that I've got some boosters here. So what I'm doing with these boosters is that the ship that I'm currently grinding gets the boosters, but the equipment loadout is exactly the same as for my tier 6 and tier 7s. And if I go and pick my armory option, you can see that I've gone for the maneuverability over the torpedo damage. The Akatsuki, now this is an interesting one. You can see that I've got some missing supplies. I potentially should fill those in because I pretty much run them every battle. Here I haven't chosen the weaponry because I don't know what provides me with the most advantage. Either the aiming system modification 1 or the main battery modification 1. I definitely want the steering gear modification, and I definitely for a boat like this want the concealment modification. The closer I can stealth torpedo, the more chance I've got of hitting. And for the armory, as you can see, I've gone for the maneuverability. The advanced maneuverability here actually helps mean that you can sort of skirt around on the edge of your detection range and launch those torpedoes as close as possible. The final ship that I have at tier 7 as a destroyer is the Minsk. Now the Minsk is a bit of a different animal because it has, I haven't got the boosters for the grinding, but it has basically a gunboat. So it has the supplies and the equipment the same as every other destroyer at tier 7, and it has the same, I've gone for the maneuverability. That's because that suits my playstyle. It's very aggressive. I love a knife fight in this ship. I do end up with quite a poor destruction ratio because basically I end up getting too close in. Anyway, that's the destroyers. I hope you found this educational about the loadouts that I run for destroyers, and I hope you understand why I've selected the loadouts that I have. I haven't really gone into the details of the loadouts that I haven't selected. If I do that now, I've talked a little bit about the weaponry. I don't like the survivability negatives associated with these because when you lose guns or lose torpedo tubes, it's a major pain. And it's a small increase for a large decrease in survivability. Obviously, anything to do with AA on a destroyer, there's no real strong AA destroyers. The Sims is the strongest one. But still, I'm turning. I want the guns to be able to turn, I don't want to be able to outturn the guns. And in fact, I want to be able to bring the guns on target against my turn. So if I'm turning to the left, I want my guns to be able to rotate to the right, even against the speed of the turn. The only one I would consider here may be the propulsion modification. That's me. Other people may choose the armament modification for the repair time. But yeah, let me put it this way. The best thing I can find is being agile reduces the chances of being hit at all. The propulsion modification I would consider because basically it gets you into those caps faster. But once you're in those caps, you're in pretty close range. And for me, it comes back to the steering gear modification. As for the third slot, obviously the survivability would be nice, but the price of it is too high. I can't really go past concealment because the benefits it provides. My second pick would be steering gear modification for yet more agility or a little bit of extra speed. Obviously, AA air defense modification for a destroyer doesn't really provide much benefit. Anyway, that is the destroyer loadout video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and we shall catch you next time. Thank you for watching.